yesterday involving Obamacare and union dues. Right now, though, we're going to shift gears, bring on our Ringside All-Star who checks in with us on Tuesdays. We're joined, of course, by Steve Sabludowsky, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. You can check us out on the internet at WGSO.com. Also on the airwaves, 990 AM, WGSO. And, of course, at Bayoubuzz.com via our Google Hangout. You can see us right now as we welcome Steve Sabludowsky. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Jeff, and how are you doing this morning?
Hey, doing well, Steve. Getting ready, of course, for the big celebration of Independence Day, and that sort of means when we get past Independence Day that we're on the downhill of the summer, getting ready for fall and football and elections. So it's going to be a busy next few months, I'll tell you that. But, Steve, let's jump into some of the issues I want to discuss with you. I want to start off with getting your view on kissing Congressman Vance McAllister's decision to run again. He initially said he wasn't going to run. He said he was going to serve out the end of the term and then leave. He had a change of heart, so now he says he's discussed it with his family, going to run again. Your thoughts on that decision?
Well, personally, I think it's a shame. I think that when somebody violates the trust of the people, then that person should not have another opportunity. And I think that he did that and so I think it's a shame. Although, he feels like, he wants the people to decide, and I think that he probably will find that people will decide against him.
You don't think, well, look at how forgiving the people have been towards Edwin Edwards, toward David Vitter. These are guys involved in some scandals. They were able to win election afterwards. So would Vance McAllister maybe be able to depend on these forgiving Louisiana voters who'll give him another chance?
No, not at all. At the time, Vitter didn't have another election until I think 4 years or so, 4 years after the scandal, and he didn't have any Republicans running against him here in North Louisiana. I mean, he's certainly going to have quite a number of Republicans who are going to be running against him. Certainly, I imagine Roger Villery and Bobby Jindal and company will be supporting at least one candidate or two candidates.
Well, the Robertson family has their own candidate in the race, so the Duck Dynasty people aren't behind him, and that was a big factor in his first victory.
Sure, yeah, Duck Soup party, yeah, absolutely, and so we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think that he's going to have a tough time.
Speaking of course, Bobby Jindal, I wrote a column posted on Bayoubuzz last week recommending that he resign, recommending that he now run full-time for president and allow Jay Darden to be a full-time governor. He didn't take me up on that, so he's still governor right now. And I think we're still going to see, of course, him treating us sort of as a hobby, as sort of his moonlighting position, as his focus remains the presidential race. Any news on whether he's getting any traction, you think? Do you think more people are maybe coming on board and supporting him? Do you see any future for that presidential race for the governor?
Well, I certainly think it's a good segue to the Hobby Lobby case. I think that Jindal, went in immediately after the decision, sent a press release with his opinion relative to that case, and I suspect he has been on some national talk radio shows or has been interviewed by some of the nationals subsequent. I know his name has been mentioned in a couple of articles I read. So, yeah, is he getting support? Yeah. I think that here in Louisiana, people, I think that people just have, or like you, frustrated, and just really feel that he has taken advantage of us. Now let me play devil's advocate for a second, as I'm
Sure.
doing, and that is that one could argue that he, as a politician, has every right to go and to further his own future, and he, as other politicians, will go and they will run while in office for while they're currently in office, that is true. There's no question about that, and the argument would be, well, why treat him differently? Why are we treating him different than we did, say, David Vitter when he ran, Mary Landrieu, and Cassie, etc., and a zillion other people who have run for office after winning a prior office, a different office at that.
Well, I mean, one difference is, of course, he did that from the day he was elected. Normally, people will decide to run for office toward maybe the end of their term or something, or if they're term limited, they'll run. I don't like it, Steve. I like people to fill their term, and then if they want to run for something down the road, fine. But finish their term. Don't run for an office while still serving. That's my own preference, and I agree with you. I think there's a host of politicians who do it. Jindal did it when he was congressman. He ran for governor while he was a sitting congressman. I mean, he's has a propensity of doing this. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I think it's worse when you're running for president, which then sends you in far-flung states. You're all over the country, as opposed to two positions in Louisiana. At least you can theoretically say, hey, I'm still here at home addressing these issues, as opposed to halfway across the country.
Yeah, I agree that it's a real sad situation when a state, such a sorry state such as Louisiana, that still is last in just about everything, and whose, as I mentioned before, whose economy has for the last 3 years been lower than the gross domestic product of the U.S., despite what the governor has said.
And that's a very weak national economy. I mean, the national economy has been poor.
That's a pitiful national economy.
So, I mean, if we're behind the national economy, that's pathetic.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
So, and here's, I think, that what really has really bothered me from the very beginning with regarding Jindal, and that is that his very first speech at the Capitol, moments after he was sworn in, and he said, and this is, of course, with Governor Foster, Governor Blanco, Governor Romer, I believe, on the dais with him, that the former governors, they were looking out for themselves. And I mean, you remember that, and it put a stone, I think, certainly in my throat in terms of,
right.
And trying to distinguish himself in terms of what he was going to do and how he would be different, and it turned out that, like you said, from the very beginning, the first opportunity that he had to get out there and try to get that national exposure,
he did.
It became opium for him, I think. And,
and also, as far as being different, really different, yes, but not in the right way. Lee Zurich pointed out in his Louisiana Purchase story that aired on Fox the other day, I mean, that Jindal has a propensity, really, of awarding seats, board positions to big donors, and even to a greater degree than we've seen in other administrations. So he has taken what was a bad practice and made it even worse.
Yeah.
And when Zurich tried to question him at a news conference, Jindal ignored the questions. He wouldn't respond to the request for interviews. So he's showing that same sort of disinterest in engaging the local media that he has from the very beginning. Now, you can get him on Fox News talking about Benghazi, but as far as talking about the economy here, the legislature, his shady fundraising practices, he won't do it.
Yeah, and that's probably, of all the things that that I think really is repugnant to the way that we were hoping that Governor Jindal, Bobby Jindal at the time, was going to change things in every area of everything that he was so supposedly behind. He has violated, ethics reform, violated, and this is a blatant situation. And I got to tell you, I had to really applaud you and other Republicans and other conservatives who have come out and said, look, this is wrong. We cannot stand for this. I mean, I remember back in 2007 when the Republican Party was strongly behind ethics reform, and that was their I think that incompetency in government was their #1 platform during the election, ethics reform, because Bobby Jindal emanated, personified ethics reform. But boy, were we, we were definitely disappointed because, he carved out those exceptions for himself.
Right.
I mean, and like you said, I mean, from the Board of Regents, in terms of, being able to, giving seats to people who are heavy donors.
Well, some would say selling seats. I mean, that's how some would say it, pay to play. I mean,
well, but yeah, sure.
Politics as usual. I mean, there are all kind of ways you can put it. None of them good.
Yeah, and so the point I'm making is that I think that the Louisiana Republican Party in particular, owes us an apology because they came out there and made ethics reform a major deal.
All right, hang on, Steve. We're going to take a break. We'll get into this more when we come back. Steve Sabludowsky with us, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. Jeff Crouere here. It's ringside WGSO. Quick time out. Let's take care of some business. Our talk line, 504-556-9696 to join us. Open line discussion. Quick time out. We'll be back.
Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, 3117 21st Street. Open Monday through Thursday from 11 to 9, Friday and Saturday till 2.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
What do you want to hit in the second segment? You want to talk about Edwards at all? I saw a new poll out about Edwards.
Yeah, and if we could touch on Hobby Lobby, about it again, we're live right now, but sure. Whatever. Yeah, okay.
What about this Mitch Landrieu and the response to the Bourbon Street shooting? I mean, I think, there's an interest in whether he's going to be running for governor, how this could affect that.
Sure.
And then, of course, the Senate race is heating up. Lots of developments there. Okay.
How about today? Your schedule probably seems rather predictable, so your immediate future looks good. But when you get right down to it, the future is quite unpredictable from a human point of view. Even biblically, we don't know exactly how or when things will happen. That uncertainty can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. The psalmist David wrote that God had all of his days written down in a book. His future was completely in God's hands. This is David Jeremiah encouraging you to get on the road to new life. Discover God's view of the future on Route 66.
Route 66, driving the word home. Log on to Route66Life.com. Start your journey home today.
If your AC or heat's not working right, or worse, not working at all, let the pros at River City Air Express get your system running again, and fast. They come when you need them. East Bank, West Bank, North Shore. River City Air Express, 841-3300.
Acme Oyster House has been around for over 100 years, and that doesn't happen unless you do things right. That tradition lives on with family recipes that date back from one generation to the next. Acme Oyster House, born in the French Quarter, praised all over.
Ringside Politics with a Punch and Jeff Crouere are on the air now. Your opinion is valued. In fact, if you like your opinion, you can keep your opinion. And I know you've heard that before. You can believe that's the truth. Call Jeff Crouere now at 556-9696.
All right. Jeff Crouere here. It's ringside WGSO, 990 AM, WGSO.com. 504-556-9696 to participate. Joining us here via Google Hangout. And on the airwaves, Steve Sabludowsky, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com, talked about the kissing congressman, of course, Bobby Jindal. Other issues we'll get to. It's an open line discussion, so anything you want to talk about is fair game. Of course, Steve, the last few days have been focused on this shooting down in Bourbon Street. Obviously, international news, not the kind of news New Orleans needs as far as tourism conventions. Some say I'm focusing too much on the negative. I think those folks are being, just not real, because this is something that is really a serious problem we have to address. And, of course, how the mayor handles it could be very important for his political future, because I think a lot of folks feel right now we're in danger. Our economy really could be threatened here if more of this bad news keeps occurring. Your thoughts?
Sure. No, I mean, without doubt, it's a major issue to New Orleans, to the state of Louisiana, and to Mitch Landrieu's political career. So I think a week ago or so, we did a Google Hangout interview with Mark Romick, and talked about tourism in New Orleans, and basically addressed the crime issue. And yeah, there's no question that they're concerned about that issue, but they also recognize that it's a big city, and like all big cities, we have these kind of issues, but certainly don't put your head in the sand. Try to figure out what we can do to solve these problems. Having said that, I'm not sure really what we can do to solve the problems in an immediate sense.
I'll tell you one thing. Landrieu could revamp the NOPD, which is under his control.
Yep.
He could bring in a chief that would be more popular with the officers. We're losing a lot of police officers. I think there's a lot of disenchantment with Chief Surpass. And I think that's an action he could take right there that could help. We just heard from a former officer who said back in Pennington's day they had 1,700 officers. Now we have maybe half, less than 1,000. She was saying. So, I mean, that's a major, I think, issue that he can have some direct impact on.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, the population, I think, was almost double the population now. Even though there was a surplus in terms of the budget, as I understand, this past year, things are not so rosy for the upcoming year. I think that pouring money into it, yeah, it'd be great to have more cops on the street. There were 3 cops there on Bourbon Street. It's not having more cops.
But I keep hearing from people in the quarter they don't see police. They don't see enough officers around. I keep hearing that. The numbers are down from 150 to less than 100 now in that 8th district. I mean, that is an issue, I think. I mean, obviously, you've got thugs that don't care about human life, going to start shooting up people, and right, they could be an officer right next to them.
Yeah.
However, if there was an officer right next to him, we would have apprehended the individual right then and there. And we could have at least, given the assurance to the public, we've got our guy.
You could have a zillion cops down there at any given moment, and you're still going to have thugs out there for some strange reason on Bourbon Street trying to play Wild West. And you're going to have bullets flying. You may be able to catch the people. I don't know whether or not having more cops on the street is going to make that much. I mean, on that street, for example, going to make that much of a difference. I mean, with all the cops that we do have in that area and the people out there, why are they picking Bourbon Street? Why? I mean, there's. I mean, please, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're picking an area that's 2 blocks from Jackson Square, around the corner from Paddo's and Preservation Hall, literally the heart of the quarter, right where the crowds go, right where we have the attraction. Again, yeah, there were officers around. I don't think having more officers would hurt Yeah, there are other problems, breakdown of the family, breakdown of education, breakdown of moral values, etc. We also have a revolving door criminal justice system, Steve, because
Sure.
how much you want to bet that these guys, when they are apprehended, will see a long history that they've had with criminal justice.
Yeah. No question about that. And I think that, I'm willing to, at least I don't want to take that bet. I support what you're saying, and in terms of criminal justice, and my God, in that area, that is something that people in New Orleans certainly can do more.
Something about.
Sure. Now, is that something that Mayor Landrieu, has, other than, like you said, the chief of police? What can he do that's different? I mean, he certainly does not appoint the judges, district attorney, and so on. I mean, it's really, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. So what you're saying is that maybe the only thing that Landrieu can do, and I'm sure there's probably other things, but is to change the chief of police.
That's one thing, and then what he could do, the suggestion I've made, is get rid of his whole network of deputy mayors, all their staffs, and put that $2 million toward criminal justice, toward beefing up the police department, toward enhanced lighting, toward other things that can be done to provide more public safety. I mean, these deputy mayors are a joke. And they're each making $150,000. They've got this network of staff and benefits and et cetera. And that to me is obscene. Spending $118,000 on an inaugural when the city is in crisis. You're partying up there, taking stretch limos and eating fine dining when we've got people dying in the streets. That's inappropriate. So those are some things that he can do, I think, that would send a message to the public.
Yeah, the question was that public money that was spent. I mean, I didn't hear that, but if that's the case, I remember during the Memorial days in the latter part of his years, he actually, in terms of like the Mardi Gras ball, I mean, they just really stripped that down. From where Bartholomew had it was, I mean, it was a very opulent event.
Right.
With Memorial, I mean. They really stripped it down because of the image issue, and
right.
So as far as the deputy mayors, I mean, again, what are we giving up if we were to get rid of these people? Maybe we would ask for a reduction in salary for sure, and I'm sure there are some people who are very competent who can do a good job for less money. But what if we? I mean. Is giving up that higher staff, is that going to really make that much of a difference?
Well, I mean, again,
I don't know.
It would save a few $1 million, and we'd be able to focus it toward more productive uses. I think all those mayors, deputy mayors around him, just shield him from criticism. And I mean, other mayors haven't needed deputy mayors. I think the fact that he's got all of this is obscene. So, yeah, I mean, of course, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a major hole in the budget, but it's not insignificant. So, I don't know. I mean, he's not going to do it, obviously, because he's committed to that system, and he just got reelected with the system. But this kind of thing is bad news. We've had 2 bits of bad news, Steve, in the past few weeks. We lost the Super Bowl. And, of course, we had this international incident here with the shooting on Bourbon Street. And I'm wondering if the crime situation is going to be affecting more conventions and groups who decide not to come to New Orleans.
Yeah, no, it definitely is an issue. There's no question about that. Anytime you have this kind of negativity in the media, it's an issue. And we had marches after Katrina with killings and crime.
Is it time for another march? Did that do anything? We had 5,000 people. I was part of that. And remember, Mayor Nagin was on the stage, and what was he doing? He's on his BlackBerry working on his granite business.
Right, exactly.
Well, I was there demanding, them to do something, and he's up there working on his granite business.
Yeah. that's it's amazing. So yeah, but what can we do? I sure wish there were answers. I mean, certainly, I think we need to really clean up that area in any way that we possibly can. Within constitutional grounds. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an area we need to focus on big time, the French Quarter. Hey, Steve, hang on if you can with us, because I'd love to do another segment and then take some calls when we come back. It's 504-556-9696. Jeff Crouere here, Steve Sabludowsky with us. A little bit later on in the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to be hearing from a health expert who's going to extol the virtues of one of my favorite supplements, vitamin C. That's coming up a little bit later on. But right now, more with Steve Sabludowsky as we come back for our final hour of the program today. We'll open up our phone lines. Anything you want to talk about is fair game at 504-556-9696. It's ringside right here, WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com, and also joined by Steve Sabludowsky on Bayoubuzz.com. We'll be right back. This is Jeff Crouere. Join me at 7 a.m. till 11 or Ringside Politics with a Punch right here on WGSO 990 AM, New Orleans, Louisiana.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm Kay Long.
This murder of innocent teenagers on their way home from school, I think, is a clear example. It demonstrates that Hamas has not changed. It remains a vicious, vile terrorist organization.
All right, welcome back. One more segment with our special guest, Ringside All-Star, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. Steve Sabludowsky is with us here on the airwaves, 990 AM, WGSO.com, and also at Bayoubuzz.com via Google Hangout. And taking your calls at 504-556-9696. Steve, any comments before we jump to the phones?
Yeah, I actually would be very interested in discussing the Hobby Lobby situation. I think that certainly is a very provocative decision. But let's go ahead and see what the callers have to say.
All right, very good. Let's kick off with our friend James in Metairie. James, what's going on?
Well, Jeff, good morning to you and good morning to Steve. First of all, I just want to say concerning the Blaze News, they say the truth lives here. Well, an earlier guest of yours, Jeff, said you don't have to prove the truth. All you have to do is just say it. So, Blaze News is making Fox News look reasonable. I want to congratulate, Jeff, the thousands and thousands of black voters in Mississippi who demonstrated extraordinary wisdom and understanding and courage by going to the polls and voting for Thad Cochran and not for that embarrassing Tea Party sore loser, McDaniel, in that recent election. Jeff, real quickly, I've said this before, the black voters of Louisiana saved the state from self-destruction back in 1991 by voting against the racist Klansman David Duke, whereas the white males in that race, Jeff, voted at the rate of 60%.
Let me ask you a question, James. Did you hear my report earlier that a black pastor is now coming forward to say the Cochran campaign paid black voters to go to the polls and cast votes for Cochran?
Yes, I did, Jeff, and I'm assuming you're looking at that article that was in Breitbart,
right,
where the reporter admitted to paying the pastor for that story, Jeff.
Right.
And that's against the ethics code of journalism. If we read into
okay,
the story.
But he paid him, and then the guy produced text messages from the Cochran campaign. So,
Jeff,
I mean, how do you respond to that?
People paying for information. I'm going to question the validity.
So you're upset about paying for information, but you're not upset about paying for votes?
Oh, wait a minute, I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, you don't seem to be outraged by it.
That turns out to be factual. That needs to be really investigated, and let the investigation go where the evidence leads it. Now, concerning this filthy candidate that they had, there's an article in Politico earlier, back in April. I don't know how many of your listeners know that Chris McDaniel was a talk show host, Jeff. Maybe that's why you have a little sympathy or compassion for him in Mississippi. For about 2000.
I just don't like people who've been in office for 42 years, James. I'm sorry. 42 years, get the hell out.
Let me finish my point.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
He was a talk show host in Mississippi, 2006 to 2007. Lots and lots of information on that one. For example, when asked he said something about, if they pass reparations and my taxes are going up, I ain't paying taxes, I'm moving to Mexico. Then somebody says, well, how about saying something in Spanish, like, can you translate, do you have a sister? And he says, well, how about mamacita? Then he goes on to talk about how that means hot, hot mama. Folks, racism is not just a tax on blacks. It's a tax on other ethnic groups and nationalities. This guy is bad, bad news. And if I were the Republican Party, I would distance myself real far from this guy because he is a disgrace. And again, thank you, black voters, for exposing and turning this guy out of office. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, James, you can bring up something he said on talk radio 7 years ago, or you can talk about what was going on 7 days ago in Mississippi where people were getting paid off to vote according to the allegations. You seem to be upset about what he said on the radio, yet give a pass to the Cochran campaign for implying that the guy was affiliated with the KKK, which is a lie. Also, of course, Democrats cannot vote in the Republican primary if they voted in the Democratic primary in Mississippi. That's the law. And if people voted illegally in Mississippi, those votes should not count. And the McDaniel campaign is investigating that. So we'll have to see. Steve, they've got a hybrid system in Mississippi. Here we've got an open primary. We've had experiences with closed primary. There, you're in a Republican primary, and if you're a Democrat, you can vote in the Republican primary as long as you didn't vote in the Democratic Party primary. And then everybody who votes in the Republican primary is committed to vote for that Republican candidate in the general election. And if you don't, I guess you're in violation of the law, at least the spirit of the law. So it's a real convoluted system that they have there.
I'm not sure who wrote that law. I mean, I mean, the spirit, that you're supposed to vote for the same person during the general election. I mean, that's absolutely nuts. I mean, there's no way to. I mean, how there's just no way.
Right.
That you're going to be able to.
When McDaniel was asked, well, are you going to be supporting Thad Cochran in the runoff with the Democrat candidate? And he said he'd have to pray about it. So they said, technically, by not saying he would support Cochran, he voted in the Republican primary, is now saying he's not going to endorse or vote for the Republican in the runoff. Technically, he was in violation of the law. By saying that. So, I mean, the law is ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, let me say, I think that, in my opinion, I think the crossover vote is, really a silly way to do things. I mean, you see it in the presidential primaries, and I just think that, that's pretty despicable, quite frankly. I certainly, was not in favor of McDaniel's winning, but right. I do think that it's a sorry situation where, one, if you do have say the Cochran campaign paying for voters, and I know that's done all the time in terms of getting out the vote, okay, but I think it's a very poor practice. And you have it in good government groups here, where you basically are paying the organizations to advertise. I just think that's sad. Should the campaign look at this? Yeah, I do think so. Mm-hmm. And I just think they should clean that whole practice up, because to the extent that say the Black Democrats went out in force and supported Cochran, when you know that they would not have done so, but this was an opportunity that was provided to them, I think it's sad. It's just a really bad way to engage in any kind of democracy.
Our talk line, 504-556-9696. Jeff Crouere here. Steve Sabludowsky with us. It's ringside on WGSO, 990 AM, WGSO.com, and Bayoubuzz.com. Let's keep it rolling, Steve. Our friend I haven't heard from in a while. He's back with us. Needs no introduction. Goes by the handle, The Flaming Liberal. What's going on, Flaming Liberal?
Good morning, Jeff and Steve. I'd like an answer to my question I attempted to get last time I called. Since Rush Limbaugh referred to the great African-American people in Mississippi who crossed party lines to vote for Senator Cochran, Rush Limbaugh referred to those black gentlemen and ladies as Uncle Toms. Now, Bill from Mandeville wants me banned for referring to Alan West, the former black Republican congressman from Florida, as a house Negro, which he is. I don't think those black people in Mississippi are Uncle Toms for demonstrating an act of decency. Now, I'd like to know, and how do you personally feel, Jeff, was Limbaugh justified referring to those African-American voters in Mississippi who crossed party lines? Was it justified or decent of Limbaugh to refer to those black people as Uncle Toms? And if it was, why is it not okay for me to refer to Alan West and other people like Herman Cain as house Negroes?
I don't like it when you use that term. I don't like it when you use a disparaging term about the Tea Party. I don't like it when people engage in name calling. I'm going to call the and I'm not here to defend Rush Limbaugh or go in and talk about his vocabulary. What I would say about the African-American voters in Mississippi is they were misguided, and they were maybe led astray by folks who didn't have their best interests at heart. That's how I would characterize them. As far as Alan West, I think he's a hero. I think Alan West is a courageous individual. I think Alan West is a fine representative. I'm sorry he lost his last election. I hope we haven't heard the last of him. I hope he's going to be running again for office soon. Any comments, Steve?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how in the world Limbaugh would, consider the black voters Uncle Toms. I mean, I'm really stretching my brain trying to figure even the logic behind that. Again, I don't like the system that was set up that would allow this to happen. And
right.
I would hope that they would change the system in the presidential primaries. I just think it's a very bad system.
Well, I also don't like it when Mississippi, I think it was Alabama, it was a representative in either Mississippi or Alabama who called Clarence Thomas an Uncle Tom. I just think that's inflammatory. Again, this is a gentleman who is a distinguished jurist, distinguished member of the Supreme Court, someone who should be a source of pride for what he's achieved, not disparaged because, we disagree with him on issues. He's a conservative, and that's sort of implying that nobody can be a conservative. So anyway, I don't like it when it's used either way. I think sometimes people engage in language that's offensive in politics, and we should keep it to the issues. Let's go to Sherry, who joins us next. Hey, Sherry from Metairie, how are you?
I'm fine. And
hey.
What you just said was just perfect. Perfect.
Well, thank
you. I'm calling about crime. I had a problem with Steve's position. He seems kind of not serious about it and kind of wishy-washy, and I just didn't get it. This is the way I look at it. Mayor Landry was up there in Oklahoma diverting trying to divert attention from the fact that, we had the incident happen right here, saying, it could have happened in any city across America. I just couldn't believe that. Couldn't believe that comment. But what people are not taking into consideration is, what if those 9 or 10 tourists had been killed and not just wounded? What if they were dead? Now, what kind of picture would that paint? And they could have been dead. And the other thing is about the police. You have to be, I just don't understand people who don't get that if you're short about 500 cops, which is about a third of the complement of the police department, the criminals are going to feel empowered. And they're going to do even more than they would if there were enough police. They would back off if there were enough police. And had there been more police in the quarter when that happened, they might have been close enough to have been able to, do something about it and maybe take those 2 thugs out, which would have been a wonderful thing. So we need the police. I don't think we're going to get the police, though, because I think the word is out around maybe the country that New Orleans is not serious about fighting crime, and they're not going to back the officers. That's what I think.
Sherry, I appreciate your call. Steve, your response?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I was wishy-washy. Sherry, please explain. I don't understand.
Sherry, do you want to elaborate on your comments? Steve wants some more clarification.
Well, when I say wishy-washy, it's like he doesn't seem, maybe that was the wrong word to use, it's like he doesn't seem terribly concerned with the fact that we don't have enough officers. He kind of just passed over that. And I think it's a serious thing when you're short 500 police officers in an area that is crime-ridden.
Right.
And he just did not seem to be as concerned as you are, usually, or I am, or most people are. I mean, my friends and I don't go down there anymore because of the way.
And you're not alone, Sherry. There are many, many others who don't. And look at all the economic impact that could be. Look at how much more money the city could be receiving if people felt comfortable going down there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an economic hit as well as a PR hit. Sherry, appreciate it. Steve, I guess the point is, I guess in our view, it's a crisis that we don't have enough police officers, and that is a contributing factor. Not certainly the sole factor, maybe not even the biggest factor, but a contributing factor to the crime situation.
Sure. Well, first of all, if I appeared in any way, say, disconnected or not concerned, I do apologize. That certainly is not my intent, never has been. My feeling is this: I don't have the answers. I mean, I hear we need X amount of cops on the street. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if we did have those, if we had the money for those cops. Where's the money going to come from? You can't just print money, okay? I mean, you've got to have a rational plan, saying that, well, let's just get rid of those deputy mayors. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a plausible plan, but what do we lose in place of it? So it's not that I'm not concerned. I think I am concerned, just like Sherry and just like you. I mean, for sure. I mean, we love the city, we love this area, and so obviously we're very concerned. Just to say, well, we ought to do this or that, that's not necessarily the answer. I mean, you have to look at the numbers. You have to decide, well, does this make sense? Is this going to solve the problem? Yeah, we're half behind. We have half the population. Does that mean I'm not concerned? It's just what I'm trying to do is present both sides of the issue for the discussion.
All right. Hey, let's take some more calls. Steve, 504-556-9696. Our friend Susan is with us on the cell phone. Hey, Susan, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, did either of y'all listen to what Rush Limbaugh actually said about Uncle Tom?
I just heard what the caller was saying about it. No, I didn't.
Well, I heard I listened to his comments. What he was saying was, if anytime, a black American decides to get off the Democratic plantation, he's called an Uncle Tom. So he was saying, well, why aren't we calling all the Democrats who voted for Ted Cochran Uncle Toms? He wasn't calling them Uncle Toms. He was just making, how he is. I'm not a fan of Rush Limbaugh, but, why aren't they Uncle Toms?
He was just making a point. Mm-hmm.
Right,
okay.
Right, making a point. But, of course, it's taken out of context because there's so little for the progressives to get outraged about, to display their phony outrage. Because right now,
as I think
how can you defend Barack Obama right now? It's pretty hard, so you have to look for some kind of, make up some kind of scandal to, take Rush Limbaugh out of context or find, I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find a racist in America that you can focus on.
Or take a comment a guy made on talk radio 7 years ago and impugn his integrity and say that means he's a racist for some kind of a comment.
Go on and on about Ted Sitter. I'm sorry, I was getting him confused with Ted Kennedy, the man who left a woman to die in the water, Bitter, on and on about his sexual escapade, but you'll ignore Bill Clinton, and we'll hold Bill Clinton up as, the greatest man ever walked the earth. Well, no, he's not. That's Barack Obama. Sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah. Bill Clinton's good, but he's not great, Susan, so get that right.
Your whole campaign is on the war on the Republican war on Bitter, and who do you bring out? Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bill Clinton has no equal as far as his promiscuous affairs and all of his shenanigans. Hey, appreciate the call, Susan. Interesting point. Steve, your response?
Yeah, from a historical standpoint, I remember, I think in 1980s, 1990, where there were no blacks whatsoever that I know of, at least. No blacks with a national, say, following who were conservatives. I think that I forget what his name was, who I think had a TV show sometime in the 90s during the Clinton days, and I think that kind of started it. I'm glad to see conservative blacks. I do have a problem, however, to say, to call the Democratic plantation. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't listen to Rush Limbaugh. I think he's insulting.
With that, Steve Sabludowsky, Thank you for joining us, as always. Appreciate you. And, of course, check out more information at Bayoubuzz.com. We're up against the clock. We got to roll to a break. Jeff Crouere here. It's Ringside WGSO. We'll take more calls when we come back. 504-556-9969.